Who is the best person to, or is there anybody that can answer the question? I've heard a lot of people talking about an earthquake that might happen in Morocco in the year 2024, where a tidal wave will go over Florida. Would you be able to answer whether or not this is true?
I don't see that as a possibility at that point.
Okay.
There is always a constant threat coming off the coast there, but I don't see a wave coming over us down here.
Okay. All right.
I think our water is too shallow around us here to be greatly affected by something similar that could happen in the next 20 years.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
I see there is an effect from the shallow water that will protect us down here.
Will it happen somewhere else?
It doesn't seem like it's going to be anytime soon.
Oh, okay. Like soon, do you mean within the next 20 years?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I don't see it planned on for any time in the next 20 years.
Could you tell me a little bit about this shift that people are talking about into a fifth dimension? Do you, from your perspective, see that happening?
I see the time being ripe for growth that will lead to this shift, where the opening possibility, the possibility of an opening into this fifth dimension will become apparent for many, but not for all.
How will a person know there's an opening and that they can shift into that dimension?
I think the way that people's brains are being wired is changing, and their perspective is changing, and it will be something that will be very obvious and apparent to many, but not to all.
Could you tell me more about that?
I think the generation before us that's dying off was completely unable to visualize this or to conceive this. But as each generation goes forward, we see more, and the brain is being wired differently, and it opens up the mind to the concept of this as a possibility. And for those who have set it inside of themselves to create this as their mission to go forth into the fifth dimension, the possibility will be allowed.
Could you tell me what is in the fifth dimension and why someone would want to go there?
It is a new level of existence where you are not bound by a human body, but you are still a process of thought and experience and understanding, and you're not limited by the constraints of what we have to deal with on Earth.
Do you have to die to get there?
No. There is truly no death. It's just the transference of energy from one pillar to the other.
Well, do you leave your body behind, or do you take your body?
It seems like there's less of a need for the body there. Maybe a abandonment of it, but or a dissolving of it. Perhaps it seems like it kind of dissolves within itself, but is not destroyed.
What about your family? If a person goes into a fifth dimension, do they leave their family?
will be differences amongst all of those who enter into the fifth dimension. Many of them, at first, will leave behind those who are not ready. And they will have the understanding of why they need to do it. Some will go together, some will go on their own. It will not be a separation where you will, as we understand it now, die, or your family will die, and that will be the end of it. I think there is still communication that's had between our dimension and the next, and the next, and the next.
Okay.
There's still ways of communicating, but there is also going to be a deep-seated sense of belonging to that dimension that will lead people there.
To the fifth dimension?
Yes.
So this seems like something a lot of people want to go to. It's a lot more enjoyable there?
There's something there for them in their evolutionary growth, and they are programmed and wired to want to go towards that, just as we've been programmed and wired to want to go to where we are in our lives now.
I see. Okay.
It will be a deep-seated feeling of completedness that will come with journeying towards that.
Will everyone eventually move into this dimension?
It's hard to calculate because there will be many people here that will choose to stay here.
And why will they choose to stay here?
They still have, there's still more to be done here. There is still more to be learned here and to experience here. This won't be the end of this.
Oh, okay.
We're only halfway through what we are to be learning and achieving through this experiment. But that doesn't mean the next one can't begin.
Oh, so just a new experiment will begin.
That's what it seems like.
Okay. Okay, I've heard that the Earth is also moving into a fifth dimension.
I don't really see that.
So are there multiple Earths?
I think there's multiple perspectives and versions of Earth as there are people.
Okay.
And that allows for infinite possibilities.
So does each person basically create their own Earth as well?
Definitely.
So say somebody created that the earthquake from Morocco in 2024 would create a tidal wave and destroy Florida. Would that be true for that person and completely not true for another person?
There would have to be a level of agreement
Okay.
that was either pre-agreed and destined, and that's where the thought originally came from and wasn't originally thought but was placed,
Okay.
or it would create enough hysteria to spread an idea to the point where it would have to come to fruition.
Oh, okay. So what do you do if you're a human and you hear an idea and it scares you? What's the best thing to do?
It's not an appropriate thought,
Okay. All right.
and move away from it.
Okay. Can you do that with anything?
I would think so.
Okay. So essentially you can create your own reality whatever way you want to?
Whatever way you would want it to look and be, without expectations or without the interfering into others and their lives.
So if you just create your own reality, say your own reality is going to look a certain way without anybody else, like interfering with anybody else's reality, you'll be okay?
If you focus on you and yourself and what you would like to see for you and yourself, it is an easy, streamlined process.
But
when you take the others into
I
consideration,
see.
it's when you start to complicate things. In that
Okay.
you must have, it seems like there has to be a certain level of destruction for you to construct for yourself.
Can you tell me more about that?
There has to be a weighted balance of what you're looking to receive versus what you are looking to remove. It cannot be a continued free-for-all of everything, because not everything has its place in your life.
Okay.
So I see it as kind of a system of balances where when you look for something new to be added in and you ask for it, you also need to have a removal of other things that will take place, like a shift.
How do you have that? How do you?
Usually it just happens on its own.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's just a natural process.
A natural process of destruction and construction that's associated with building what you would like to see built.
Okay.
Like you can't build a home that you want on the grounds where a home already exists that you don't want.
I see.
You must have it removed.
Okay.
And this can be a painful process.
So everything is like that?
It's what it looks like.
Okay.
A very delicate system of balances.
I see. Okay.
It doesn't always have to be a painful process, but it can be if you are not open to what it brings to you, is what it seems like.
Can you tell me more about that?
There has to be, it seems like an equaling, an equality amongst what you want and what you don't want. And if you know what you don't want, you can start there.
Okay.
And knowing what you don't want will allow you to start looking at how things can be removed, and then how you can start building at what you do want.
Okay. All right. So you need the destruction for things you don't want in order to build what you do want.
It has to happen,
Okay.
but it doesn't always have to be unpleasant, but it can be a majority of the time for those who are not willing to work with it
How do you
and understand it.
So you could actually make this process feel good in some way?
In many ways, yes.
How?
It all depends on where you are and what you want and what you're willing to remove.
Okay.
It's very specific to the individual and specific to their beliefs and specific to what seems like their magnetism, like this swirling energy around you, of what you, of how you use that already.
Okay. So a human being uses that? So what's the best way to manifest something?
Best way seems to be by starting with figuring out what it is you want, knowing what you don't want, and there just doesn't seem to be too much more to it there.
That's it?
Because I think to add anything else to it, it overcomplicates it.
Well, there are things I want and things I don't want, but I don't get what I want all the time.
That is the case. The things that you want and the things that you don't want, I see it being balanced out on like a scale.
Oh. I see.
There's something to it though. If you keep asking, maybe we can get further into it
Okay.
and understand it a bit better.
Can you tell me more and elaborate on this concept?
Yes. Let's see. What is it that brings us to the point of wanting something? It may not be as much you deciding that as you think it is.
So who decides that? Is there like a spirit guide, you on a different plane of existence? Can you tell me more about that?
Exactly.
Just like you were saying that you have this knowing you want to go into the fifth dimension. Is it the same?
I think there is an element there where you and your wants may go way beyond you.
Can you tell me where they go?
Yes. This seems to be above us and sent to us in some ways.
And who's doing that?
There is definitely an element of orchestration there. There was, feels like watchers or a council or some type of an organized effort above us to sift through these things.
So our wants might not even be our own.
And that's why they may get very frustrating when we don't receive them immediately. Or certain things are received very quickly while others aren't. There seems to be the ability to get what you want, or to hear what you want, and to learn what you want, and to experience what you want. But it's handed to you in different ways. And it's handed to you in a way that, like, I'm getting an example of someone who wants to write a song, an amazing song, something that will make them famous forever and make them rich beyond belief. But what they don't understand when they're asking for that is that what those who would maneuver and make this song come to you and say a dream, they see the long term of the song ultimately destroying you.
Oh, okay, so you need to trust the orchestration.
But if you still want it, you will fight them for it.
But they, the watchers, are kind of like looking out for you, and they're like, well, that's not a good path for you.
In some ways, they can see things long term, where we still have trouble perceiving the long term with these goals and these ideals and dreams we have and wants.
Are these watchers on the human side?
I think they've always been very human-centric and have our best intentions.
Are they us?
I think part of us is connected to them, like an umbilical cord through the head.
So, can you tell me more about that?
Definitely. There seems to be a way that they can communicate ideas, and they can give you inspiration, and they can give you what you want. But sometimes the timelines will be a little bit jarred from what you want as to what would work best for you.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's where the frustration comes in, because many people want to have instant gratification, but we're not at that level yet. I see the next few generations will become very good at instant gratification.
How?
And that's what we're building up to.
So will they be able to manifest quicker?
We've only recently been exposed to things that will show us that instant gratification is real. They're being exposed to it from birth.
Tell me more about that.
They're able to see the things that they love and they want in front of them on devices and with different companies that will bring things quickly to you, and it's a very different way to be wired and programmed, to know that things are at your fingertips, whereas we had to be patient and wait for things.
And was this divinely planned to be this way?
This is a natural evolution.
Oh, natural evolution.
Naturally meant to happen, sparked by our generation into the next.
I see.
And I feel like this began a long time ago.
Tell me more about that.
That it's the ideals of our grandparents that set these forces in motion in our minds, not our parents, but our grandparents. What they were exposed to during World War II and before.
What was that? What were they exposed to?
Decimation.
Okay.
Near extinction. And then that there was something from them passed on to us that kind of skipped a generation.
What was that thing?
It was this need to create a different world, a different place, so that this would not continuously repeat itself over and over again.
I see.
I don't see the ones in the middle as concerned or as affected. They were turned off to the idea. Skipped.
I see. Okay. Very interesting. Okay.
But the next and the next and the next, they will continuously evolve faster and faster until the instant gratification becomes almost boring. And that will be the next point.
And you said it was almost halfway through. Is that what you mean? That will be the next reset?
The next reset?
Or over? This experiment will be over?
There will be a point where this will be over.
And when will that happen?
Could take millions of years.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. And what will happen when instant gratification gets to its max?
I see it being very boring, and that will lead to the next point of a jumping point of what is there then for us. If we can achieve whatever we want here on our fingertips, what else is out there? We don't know what that is yet. Our brains can't actually wrap around that idea.
I see.
Because we still haven't mastered the next level. But our grandchildren will encounter the beginnings of this.
Oh, okay. I see.
And their children.
I've heard some people talk about how extraterrestrials on their planet, they can do that. They can manifest whatever they want, and it's boring for them, so they like to play on the 3D Earth. Is that correct?
That would make sense, yes.
Okay, I see. Is there anything else you would like to say about that?
There is a period of growth coming up that I think will be a very good time over the next 4 to 8 years.
Can you tell me more about that?
It feels that there will be many things that will be shaken up.
Well, will this be enjoyable or will it be scary for people?
I think it will have both elements to it. But I see it as there are lots of cracks, and the cracks are growing. But the only way to get to a better place is to let those cracks break, and to break these norms of society that we've had, and to move forward past it. So while it may on the outside seem like everything is falling down, it is part of the process of knowing what you want and knowing what you don't want and allowing that to fall away.
So if you're a human about to go through this next couple of years, what advice would you give them?
To constantly look for the good that will come out of the situation. And in that good, you will see the understanding and the meaning behind why this is happening, because it cannot continue the way it is continuing.
Okay.
It will stagnate and rot.
Okay. And it might be a little difficult if things are shaken up. They should just look for the good in what's going on.
Try to find the good, or try to ignore it all.
Can you give me a little example about what might happen in the next couple of years?
I think one of the biggest things you're going to see is the emergence of true equality in our society between genders as well as race. And it will be a very difficult process that's already begun, but it will be done.
Okay.
It will be very solid afterwards, but it will be a much better place for people to flourish.
What about the government? It seems like there's a lot of turmoil going on.
Many changes will be made over the next, I see, 4 to 8 years within our government.
Can you tell me about that?
I see in this administration there is the possibility of a continuance there. It's not set yet.
It's not?
It's not set 100%.
How are things not set? What is this variance?
There are multiple possibilities of how it could end, but there are let me look at it a little bit. Yeah. As it stands right now, my instinct is that there will be no change in administration next year. But there will be changes in the way that the administration functions that will surprise many. But from this unrest, we will know better for the next term. Things will be challenging, but the end result will be an overwhelming growth for the entire country. And the removal, this will be the last time that generation will have control over the population. That in-between generation, they are very greedy and self-centered, and it's not their fault.
It isn't?
It is a product of what their exposure was in their earliest days of their growth.
Can you tell me more about that? Was it parenting?
It was a result of a baby boom happening to a generation of traumatized individuals who were not prepared for what the world would have become, what the world did become after their trauma and ordeal was over.
Okay, I see.
We are much more equipped for that now.
Okay, I see. Very interesting. And when I talk to you, when I ask you questions, who exactly am I speaking with?
I feel that you are speaking with my higher self, It feels that it's something above me that is giving me visuals that I can interpret, but I also feel that there is a very long connectivity to something bigger than that, stemming from that, to the point where I feel small and dwarfed and infantile in its presence.
Would it be able to give a name as to what to call it as I'm speaking with it?
I know Source would be the next level up, and that would be the collections of me, but there is still what feels like a long cord that connects my source to something greater.
Can you tell me where it goes? Can you follow this all the way up?
It just feels like it goes all up, 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 and then it's kind of like, just get this golden feeling, this impression, this golden glow of comfort, of familiarity.
Wonderful.
It's not something that is unfamiliar or harsh or abrasive. It's very welcoming.
Wonderful.
Just an extension of your very basic origins that all come together. And it doesn't feel like it's one singular entity or thing or whatever, blob.
Are there any benefits of connecting with this higher self?
I think the benefit has been that we have always been connected.
I see.
And that is the point, the premise, the
purpose of
the
life?
purpose. Not the purpose of life, because each life will take on its own purpose. But the purpose, I think it does bring you back to a reminder of purpose
I see.
in that. But it just feels like an unbiased platform of orchestrators who do know better.
Wonderful. Can I ask them more questions?
You can try.
Okay. What really happened in Machu Picchu?
That was a very specific landing ground that was meant to be higher up, so it was easy to find. In Machu Picchu, there was a need for a civilization there that would grow food and contribute to a clean water system for visitors. And through this, we allowed for a shared technology to come to this planet to help further along the development of its human beings and its hybrid beings.
I see. And what was the purpose for that?
Seems like it was an injection of intelligence in a place that was very remote.
I see. Okay. All right. Anything else you would like to say about Machu Picchu?
I think there was definitely, during its heyday, a place to be. Seems like a lot of activity.
For extraterrestrials or for humans?
For both, and interacting between the two.
Did the humans see the extraterrestrials?
I believe they did, and I believe they interacted with them, especially early on. But I think as the generations continued and the interactions were less and less, they took the form of gods, and it was slightly skewed.
Oh, I see.
But in the beginning, I believe it was kind of like a Garden of Eden almost, that people came to with the invite of these extraterrestrials or hybrid humans. And they began on a platform that would allow for a more controlled experiment.
Oh.
Is what it seems like.
I see. Do extraterrestrials still visit there today?
I think rarely, but occasionally. It's less functional and more monumental.
I see. Okay. Is Dolores Cannon in that stream of consciousness that you're connected to, or do you see her as like a separate entity?
I see her more as a separate entity that can come through that stream.
Is she around?
If we need her to be.
Can I ask her a couple of questions?
Yes.
Where is she exactly?
Seems like she's still in an in-between place right now, and she's still working on things and learning from things, that she is in the in-between world.
What is that world?
What was that?
What kind of world is that?
That is the world where you go and you understand your life after it has taken place. I think she still has some mysteries to understand.
What is she working on?
I see her working on her daughter.
Okay.
And not as much in her field as you would think. I think she understands more of that now than she did before, and that has become more complete with her.
Can you tell me what
more personal stuff.
What type of things? So she already understands everything about her work, and she's not really. What knowledge was she surprised to learn on the other side?
Really surprised. The connectedness. The connectedness between who exposes you to what, that allows for things to become uncovered, and how they're planted again over and over and over again, is what I'm seeing.
Can you tell
Just
me more?
how deeply connected on so many, even cellular levels, we all are.
Do you mean like hidden things that each person finds?
And those who interact with each other and come into contact and learn from each other with, or share experiences from, just how detailed your checklist is as you come into this world.
Do you mean how planned it is?
Not planned, but how detailed that list is of things you would like to accomplish in this existence, and how many opportunities you're given, and how much interaction there really is between your past and your source and your future.
Can you tell me more about that?
It's very elaborate. There are so many billions and trillions of connections that happen even on a daily basis that you can't begin to even encompass all of it. There's so much possibility and so many different, it seems like, alterations that could be made, that it's very overwhelming at first to realize just how not alone, or not alone you are.
So it's just so intricate.
It's very intricate, like brain surgery.
So if a person comes into this lifetime with what they want to do in their life, there are so many people they're going to meet, so many interactions, so many things like that.
Yes. But on a very deeper level, because the things that you may want in this life may not actually be the things that you truly want, and there will be alternate passageways to things that were meant for you already, that you had chosen before, that will lead you around that to an experience that will lead you to this, that will bring you to that. But there's always, it just seems like strings hanging off of strings, hanging off of strings, so many different variants and possibilities that are planned out for you.
What were the other possibilities for Dolores Cannon's life?
That not necessarily that her life would take a different role, but the possibilities existed for her to take the life that she did have, and to experience the things that she did have.
So it was very planned.
Planned, but planned in a way where you still have the option of choice, but the possibilities are around you at all times, it feels like.
Was there ever a choice for a totally different type of life?
I believe so, definitely.
Okay.
But it just seems like if you look at what she presents to you as her life, that was what she had wanted to accomplish before she came into that body.
Was that even her choice, or did the planners?
It was originally her choice, but it didn't come to her for many years because she pushed off the concept to make other choices for a while, but it always came back to it because the option was always there for her, that the strings hanging from strings that I'm seeing all connect back to each other in many ways, or open to new possibilities that bring that into fruition. It just seems like there's definitely a concept of destiny, and that they make it so that you have everything around you that you need for destiny.
Oh, okay.
But it will take time, and there are choices, and there are different roads that will bring you to it, but it all comes back to what you are choosing at that moment.
Okay. So she's
a little confusing, but it paints a good picture right now.
okay. Well, so she is not really learning any real mysteries then. She's already finished most of that.
She finished what she had set out to accomplish, and I believe she is still reviewing and learning from that.
I see.
She's not settled yet on the next step of what she wants.
Oh, okay. So if you're in the afterlife and you keep going,
You plan your next life based on what you're learning.
So basically, she hasn't reincarnated.
No.
Okay. Does she help all the practitioners? I've heard that she does, but I just wanted to ask you.
I could see her being very helpful to many, but I don't see her as being involved individually with every one of them.
Okay.
Certain ones, yes, and others have others who are helping them.
Does she help me?
I see her heavily around you.
Does she want to say anything?
That the journey was by far the most exciting part for her. And she wishes the same for you.
Thank you.
But there is an element there of of journey, of experience, of going in steps. Because one step will lead to the next, and try not to skip a step, because it will bring you to the right place where you need to be for everything. And that she sees a furtherment of her work through you.
Tell me more about that.
There is so much more to be learned about what she began. And she understands that, but she understands also that it's not her job to further it. But if she can serve as inspiration and guidance for those who will be there to further it, then that is what she is doing now.
So if a practitioner wants her to help to inspire them, they just ask?
Some of them. I don't see it as something that everyone can do. I think she has picked a few and chosen them.
I see.
But I don't see it as something that everyone can just call upon her for. I think that would annoy her. I don't think she's looking for just anyone to further this work. I think she has very specific people she's chosen that will further it. Or is chosen to work with to further it. I don't know if she chose it herself.
Like the people chose.
Yes.
Thank you.